So for this video, I'm going to be officially announcing the launch of the Ray Bradbury Book Club, which is going to be taking place exclusively on the Bookish Drummer Discord. And the reason why I wanted to start the the Ray Bradbury Book Club is because the Stephen King Short Story Book Club is coming to an end. I started that way back in like 2021, where we were slowly working our way through Stephen King's short story collection. So Night Shift, Skeleton Crew, all the way up until The Bizarre Bad Dreams, and we're going to end with You Like It Darker, which actually comes out a week from today of filming. So we're going to basically be done with that in May, and I figured let's keep something going here. So I tried to think of like who are like some of my favorite short story authors, and of course the first name that popped into my mind is, in my opinion, the king of short stories, Ray Bradbury. So basically my idea is every month we're going to be reading some sort of Ray Bradbury book. And the reason why I'm calling it the Ray Bradbury Book Club instead of the Ray Bradbury Short Story Book Club, like the Stephen King Short Story Book Club, is because I want to also include some of his books, some of his novels and novellas and such. Although I love Ray Bradbury's short story collections, and we're definitely going to be reading a lot of those, I want to also highlight some of his other stuff. And basically for this video, I'm just going to go over the schedule of what we're doing. I have the rest of 2024 planned out. We're going to be starting in June with The Illustrated Man and then working our way to December. And then if it's still popular enough, if people still want to read more Ray Bradbury with me, I do have a schedule somewhat planned out for 2025 if we want to continue until the next year. So yeah, for this video, I'm just going to chat about the schedule for the Ray Bradbury Book Club. Also, if you're interested, I'll have the link down below to join the Bookish Drummer Discord, where we'll be chatting about all of these books. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So like I mentioned previously, the book that we're going to be starting out with in June next month is The Illustrated Man, which is my personal favorite short story collection by Ray Bradbury, and also just one of my favorite short story collections ever. Like, it's basically this and Night Shift and then a few George R.R. Martin collections. Like, this is top tier short stories. And like I said, Ray Bradbury is just the king of short stories. I love me some Stephen King, and George R.R. Martin is my favorite author who writes tons of great short stories and novellas, but Ray Bradbury is just the king of short stories, and this is my favorite one. And I would argue one of his most favorite, if not, or his most popular, I should say. It's my personal favorite. It's got such stories as The Veldt, The Long Rain, The Rocket Man, The Concrete Mixer, Mariana's Ink, which might be my favorite Ray Bradbury tale, The Rocket. I mean, just, it's one of those rare collections where like all of the stories are worth reading. All of the stories here are great, at least in my opinion. And if you guys have read it before, or if you want to join me for the first time reading Ray Bradbury, definitely check out the link below. This is the first book we're doing in June, The Illustrated Man. Following that, in July, we're going to be reading probably his most popular work to date, and that would be Fahrenheit 451. And a lot of people have probably read this. I had to read this in school. And back then, you know, when you're forced to read something, it can be a little less enjoyable. But going back and reading this, like when I didn't actually have to read it, just reading it for the sake of enjoying it, I really liked it. It's definitely one of his better non-short story kind of deals, because like I said, I love his short stories, but this is basically a novella, and it's so good. And it's funny because even though, you know, a lot of Bradbury's short stories, especially early on, are more sci-fi leaning, he doesn't really consider himself like a sci-fi writer, but this is one of the rare ones where he's like, okay, this is a sci-fi thing. So yeah, it's really good. If you've never read it before or don't even know what it's about, it's a fun one to just jump into. But basically the idea is that it's a dystopian world where the main character is a book burner. So he burns books because dystopian societies don't want you to read books, apparently. And it's got a very famous first line. It was a pleasure to burn. One of the most famous first lines in a book ever. And yeah, I really hope you guys are excited to read this just like I am. It'll be a reread for me, but I know that there will be some first timers. Excellent. We're reading Fahrenheit 451 in July. And then after that, in August, we're going to be reading another one of his must-reads and most famous works, The Martian Chronicles. Not really one of my all-time favorites, because there are some like more obscure ones that I like more, but it's definitely still worth reading, and it's definitely a classic for a reason. This is kind of like what Ray Bradbury would call a fix-up novel. So he takes stories, like basically kind of short stories or vignettes or whatever, and kind of ties them in to kind of make a somewhat cohesive narrative. And that's basically what The Martian Chronicles is. It's a fix-up novel, and he has a few more of those that he wrote later on. But yeah, The Martian Chronicles is definitely one of his more famous works. I'll be interested to go back and reread it. And like I said, I hope y'all will have fun reading it for the first time or rereading it along with me. We're going to be reading this one in August. And the book we're reading in September is actually called Driving Blind. Now, I wanted to throw in some one of his more obscure and like lesser known collections, because a lot of people have probably read these first three, you know, like The Illustrated Man, Fahrenheit 451, Martian Chronicles, but not a lot of people have not a lot of people have even heard of some of his more obscure ones. And Driving Blind, I remember being one of my favorites. This was actually written, I think, in like 1997. So like decades and decades after his stuff in like the 50s and the 60s. And it's a really fun collection from what I remember. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well. It'll also give you a good taste of like what his writing is like in the 90s and 2000s. Because he has a lot of collections that I want to get to that are in that era. So I figured this would be a fun addition to read, because I guarantee you not a lot of people have read this collection. So we're going to be reading Driving Blind in September. And then, of course, for October, like what else are we going to read? We're reading The October Country, aptly named. A lot of these short stories are definitely more like horror and thriller leaning. So I think it's the perfect time to read it. And obviously it's called The October Country. So yeah, it just makes sense. And this is definitely probably my second favorite collection. It's got a lot of really fun stories in here. You've got Skeleton, you've got The Jar, you've got The Lake, you've got The Small Assassin, The Crowd, The Scythe, Uncle Ener, The Wind, The Man Upstairs, The Homecoming. Just so many great stories are in this, and a lot of them are definitely on the horror side. I wouldn't necessarily call any of these like super scary. Like they're not like Stephen King level horror, but they are definitely more on the spooky side. So this one is going to be a lot of fun to read in October, The October Country in October. And speaking of October, I wanted to try to fit this in October, but obviously The October Country is like the perfect book to read in October. But in November, we're going to be reading Something Wicked This Way Comes, which actually does take place in late October during the Halloween season. And this is one of Ray Bradbury's most famous novels. And this is all about a carnival that comes into town. And you've got two boys that are wanting to obviously go to the carnival, but obviously spooky stuff happens during it. And it's got a lot of cool themes about being young and wanting to be an adult, and then being an adult and thinking back on your childhood, nostalgia and all that stuff, and the dichotomy of that. But also it's just a super fun horror book, spooky book. It'll be a lot of fun to read. If you guys want to, you could probably, I'm going to have the channel open probably in October also. So if you wanted to slide this into like late October, early November, I wouldn't really be that mad, but I have it slotted in for November because obviously The October Country just fits better for October. And the last book we're going to be doing in 2024, in December, we're going to go back and do another more obscure collection, and that would be Quicker Than the Eye. This one is also from the 90s, I think maybe like 95, 94 or something. And it's also kind of a quirky collection. At this point, like in the 90s and 2000s, he does have some sci-fi stuff, but also he just kind of does like a mishmash of genres. So Driving Blind and Quicker Than the Eye will get you a pretty good idea of some of the stories, short stories that he likes to tell, other than like the stuff that's grounded in sci-fi and horror and all that stuff. So I remember this one being very good as well. I haven't read this in a very long time, so it'll be fun to jump back in and see which stories are actually in here. And yeah, this is the one that we're doing for December. All right, so those are the books, collections, and novels that I want to read for the Ray Bradbury Book Club, which will start next month with The Illustrated Man. So to recount, here are the lovely books that we're going to read. And I'll just go ahead and do a quick thumbnail here. But anyway, so we're going to start off with The Illustrated Man in June next month. And then in July, we're going to do Fahrenheit 451. And then after that, August, we'll do The Martian Chronicles. In September, we'll do Driving Blind, which I'm very curious to see what y'all think of that. And then in October, The October Country, of course, easy to remember. And then in November or late October, if you want to, Something Wicked This Way Comes. And then in December, we're going to end with Quicker Than the Eye. So that's the schedule for 2024. And like I said, I really hope you guys enjoy. We've already had a bunch of people saying that they're excited to join the Ray Bradbury Book Club over on the Bookastromer Discord. If you're at all interested, please use the link down below and join if you're not already. And yeah, we're going to be doing some Ray Bradbury. We're not going to be doing Ray Bradbury. We're going to be reading some Ray Bradbury. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. And hopefully this becomes popular enough that it can extend into next year, because there's a lot of Ray Bradbury collections and books that I want y'all to read next year if y'all would like to. So yeah, so hopefully you guys will join the already like 20 plus people we have that are going to be reading The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury in June over on the Bookastromer Discord. Please let me know if you're interested in signing up down in the comments below. Let me know which Ray Bradbury that you're the most interested in reading, or your favorites that you've already read in the past. Please leave all those lovely comments down in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and continue to subscribe to the Bookastromer Discord and, of course, the Bookastromer channel. And I have my Patreon link down below if you want to go support me there. And my Amazon wish list if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.